Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the lab. I'm, of course, your host, John Burkhead. And today I have a very special guest, one of my best friends, Albert Albizi. How's it going, Albert?
Pretty good, pretty good. How's it going with you?
We're still locked up in quarantine, but everything's good, dude. Just hanging out. I finally got a haircut, so I look okay. No, I look probably goofier, but hey, I'll take it. It's hot.
I mean, it doesn't help. I feel like you have to have crazy hair to work in the lab.
Oh man, gotta get my Rick style haircut on, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, Albert, so today I wanted to talk about actually the movie Hector and the Search for Hector and the Search for Happiness? Yeah, that's what it is.
Hector and the Search for Happiness, based off of a French novel.
Ooh,
Interestingly enough,
look at
uh,
you.
got that at the end credits. Little, a little spoiler alert, maybe.
Geez, yeah. Sorry, guys. No, but throughout the whole movie, you can kind of get these animations and this kind of bookish style, if you will. Definitely with like how they played with the airplane scenes and some of that kind of stuff. So that's cool to. I mean, of course, it's based off a book, right? Everything nowadays is, but it's a great movie. It's an interesting movie, especially at a time like we are right now, where self-reflection and really searching for what makes you happy is so important.
Yeah. Yeah, so when you approached me, this is one of the main reasons why I picked this movie is because at a time like this, I feel like we should have a little self-reflection and, something about guidance to happiness and what makes us happy, all in all. And it's funny that you mentioned the beginning of the movie. I actually watched it for the second time, and I didn't even realize when I first saw the movie, he was on an airplane ride, right?
Mhm.
And there's a dog behind him, and he does a little twirl in the air, and you actually see the dog falling. And then once he finally comes back to air level, I guess, there's a guy behind him choking, like reaching out to choke him, um, which I didn't even notice. I didn't even think twice about. I just thought it was weird.
Yeah.
Um, I want to come back to this so we can pin it at the end of our conversation because I feel like it kind of foreshadows what the actual movie is about.
I love this kind of ominous in your tone too.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, definitely. We can definitely talk about that. And that whole dog kind of pops up a lot,
it does. Yeah.
along with the airplane, along with seeing himself as a kid, right?
Right.
So it stars Simon Pegg, great actor in my opinion,
Mhm.
and his comedy is iconic, but in this movie it's kind of subtle and it's so funny. All his little, like, not even jabs but just wittiness, if you will,
Yeah.
it brings over the top because the whole movie is a pretty serious movie. It's a pretty dramatic movie,
Mhm.
dramatic, but at the same time, like, he throws in some humor, a lot of charisma.
All of the comedic relief or the small bits that you see in this movie, I feel like he may have suggested or may have improved it. You can just tell it was a Simon Pegg move or something. It was just too funny. But yeah, Simon Pegg is one of my favorite actors just because I first found him off of Shaun of the Dead, um, one of my favorite movies. And then after that, I followed him and saw Hot Fuzz. And then the bar movie, I forget the title.
At World's End.
At World's End. I know I don't want to get
Yeah,
confused with This Is the End or something like that
yeah,
with
right.
Seth Rogen, I believe, and
Jay something.
yeah, it was a bunch of, like, I think it was like an ensemble cast or something.
For sure.
Um, but yeah, so that movie was great as well. And then um, Nick Frost that he stars with, I just like how he always tries to find characters, like the movies that he creates. He always tries to find the actors and have them in that same movie, like Nick Frost, who's his best friend in Shaun of the Dead,
Hmm.
his partner in Hot Fuzz, and then I actually don't think I think he was a best friend in the World's End, right? Or
Yeah.
something
Oh,
like that,
yeah,
but just
he's
not a
definitely
major
in that
role.
group.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
then Martin Short is actually in all of those movies, I think. Yeah, so which is pretty cool. So hats off to Simon Pegg.
Oh, for sure. You can definitely. He's one of those guys that, like you said, he kind of reoccurring actors, right? He always has his friends with him, but there's so much chemistry and
Yeah,
so much laughs. I think Ricky Gervais is in a lot of his stuff too, or at least that's the same kind of humor that I
mhm.
relate when I
Yeah,
think of Simon
right.
Pegg. Not taking anything away from either guy, but yeah,
Yeah,
Simon Pegg is a genius.
yeah.
The Amazon show The Boys. I'm not sure if you've seen it.
No, I haven't actually.
No worries, but I just want to give you this because this is really interesting about Simon Pegg to me. So the creator of the Boys comics,
Mhm.
his main character looks and is basically Simon Pegg in the comics
Yeah.
because that's how much he loves him, and that's that's
Oh
hype.
wow.
Yeah, and
That's
for
cool.
someone like me, like I grew up on comics, and The
Mhm.
Boys is a comic book written by a fan, written by someone who hates comic books and hates heroes.
Yeah.
He put Simon Pegg as the main character because of that kind of parody spoofiness that he kind of
Mhm.
has had throughout his career, but at the same time, it's just, dude, Simon Pegg's just so good and so funny. And he actually comes out in The Boys. Shameless plug for season 2 for The Boys that comes out
Yeah.
September 4th. Hit me up, Amazon. I'm kidding. But I digress. Let's get into the movie, Albert.
Okay.
Let's talk about The Search for Happiness.
Yeah. So I'm gonna be looking over here just because I have my notes here. So if
Mm-hmm.
I'm like looking away, that doesn't mean I'm not interested.
You hate me. I get it.
It's
It's
fine.
okay.
I'm glad finally you know.
This is why I don't have separation anxiety.
Oh.
Okay, okay. But yeah, let's jump right into it. As the movie opens up, there's a lot that kind of goes on in this beginning scenes, and it basically kind of just reveals like who our main character is. Hector, played by Simon Pegg, he's a psychiatrist. He kind of has this very structured life.
Yeah. Very routine, structured, mundane, if you can say. I mean, if you don't like the day to day, like just going through the process type
Would
of
you
stuff.
even call it mediocre at times? Though he's a psychiatrist, he makes money. He seems like he's very comfortable, has a nice house, has a nice office.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, what do you define as happiness? Like, do you define it as like structure, or something that's spontaneous or different every day? It really can be up to anybody, and their own interpretation. But in my opinion, as I get older, I just feel like structure is better.
Right, right. And I guess I'm gonna jump a little bit ahead to more points in the movie, but I feel like harmony is just as important,
Yeah.
which come from structure, but
Hmm.
at the same time, as we see, Hector, we'll call him Hector from now on. He's not happy
Yeah,
with
for sure.
everything that he has going on in his life. He has a beautiful significant other,
Hmm.
a woman,
Clara.
Clara, who
Oh.
is super adorable. I think she really tries to do everything for him. She's very into all of his little kind of rituals and
Hmm.
routines and things of that nature. She's
Yep.
very supportive. I,
Basically, a match made in heaven.
yeah,
Um, but side note, is this the same girl from Gone Girl?
yeah, right. That's right.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
it has to be. It has to be because I'm like,
Yeah,
I know I've seen you before,
yeah.
but she had shorter hair in this
True.
movie.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So this must be after Gone Girl.
Yeah, the Gone Girl's what 2012. Oh my god.
The hair, like, um, jokes, jokes.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Sure. But yeah, but like as it opens up, we're introduced to this character who's
Hmm.
living this routine life.
Yeah,
And he's a psychiatrist where he even opens up and says, I'm not making my patients happy. They
yeah.
come see me, we do our thing, he doesn't increase his prices, like everything's good to go, but
Hmm.
he doesn't feel like he's giving them what they're paying him to do, like his service isn't enough.
Yeah. So he just goes through the motions, basically. Like some of his patients, like the woman with a failed marriage, um, women who palm reads. There's even a doorman.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, he's just going through it. He's doing little doodles rather than actually paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, it's not until when the palm reader kind of breaks his little day to day process, when she finally questions him and calls him out, like, you're just going through you're just going through it, like you're answering my question with another question. And that's when he realizes, like, whoa, like, you just called me out on it, and now I like have to self reflect, kind of, but he kind of pushes it off and just calls it as, oh, you're just growing, you're feeding into your ego type of thing, and I'm gonna give you some medication type stuff. So I don't know if that's a good thing.
Yeah, he it was breaking his order and his routine.
Yeah,
So I would say that she added some chaos to his life,
yeah,
and it kind of opened the door for him to realize, like, oh man, maybe she's right.
Yeah.
But another thing that I think kind of happens at the same time, he has another patient who is legit, you know, he's probably not all there.
Yeah.
He definitely has some mental challenges.
Roger. Yes.
Roger, right. And he even says it himself when he talks to another doctor. He goes, "That's hopeless. Where my other patients think that they're hopeless, this poor gentleman is."
Yeah. I mean, I think the palm reader is just going there just to go there. Part maybe for the medication, who knows. The failed marriage, you know, isn't really, you know, like we all probably can move on from it type of thing. You know, it doesn't seem like she's going through it terribly.
Yeah,
And yeah, but that's basically it.
exactly. And now it's time for him to kind of break the mold. And he, from the palm reader, she tells him, "You're going to go on an adventure." And is it, is destiny in control taking the wheel for him? Or is he, after hearing this, kind of taking control? So because after he hears that, he's like, "You know what? I am going to go on an adventure."
Yeah.
And it's kind of interesting because they don't really say like what this adventure is. He just kind of says, I'm searching for what makes people happy. That's what this adventure is about.
Yeah.
And then he goes, "I'm gonna go to China." And I'm like, why is he, when I first was watching, I'm like, why is he going to China?
Yeah. And then when she says that, the camera turns to him and he's a child with a dog, which, you know, maybe some sort of deeper meaning to it. We'll probably, you know, get to it at the end, but
What did that mean to you? Like at that moment when you're watching, like what did that mean to you, him being a child with his dog?
obviously that he may not have, you know, lived a real like childhood type of thing. He may have um, gone through what he needed to do instead of what he wanted to do as a you know, growing up. Maybe he had too much responsibility and stuff like that. So, you know.
Yeah, for me, it was he never had the chance to live or experience happiness
Mhm.
as an adult. But when he was a child, like he was feeling those emotions. But now
Right.
it just seems kind of dry, if you will.
Mhm. Right. Right. Right.
Listen, at least that's what the Bible. I mean, there's no wrong answer, right? There's
Right.
no, even with this search of happiness, we get so many different answers. It's like,
Exactly.
yeah, it's what your interpretation, your perspective, even what you're going through at the time, right? Like,
Mhm.
as we're going to talk about with all the examples and all the people he comes across. So he goes to China,
Oh wait,
and
before that, sorry.
yes,
There's a Clara has a company party,
oh
um,
yes,
and just a little bit from the movie or a comedic relief. How I guess they were going through some sort of like promotion or celebration that of because Clara is like a some sort of marketing agent for like medical like instruments or like pills, I believe.
mm-hmm.
And she and the boss, he thanks her for, you know, not being able to, you know, not say produce, but like not thinking about, you know, leaving and starting a family. And then after that, a patron of the restaurant, you know, goes to him at the sidebar and
It's
asks
good.
like, are you part of this party? And he's like, yeah, but I don't work for this company. I'm a psychiatrist. And the girl's like, a psychiatrist? You know, I've been on the search for a penis.
And
And
it's
she's
the
like,
accent because you're like, wait, what? You want a penis?
yeah, it was a French accent. And then she's like, everybody wants a penis. Nobody can, like, you cannot find a penis. You cannot touch a penis. And he's like, oh, you mean happiness? Oh my gosh, who would have thought of that? Like, it was definitely one of those funnier bits of the movie. And it was just too funny.
You're right. That oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. There's another, I don't know why, but there was another thing you just said about I've never heard the word maternity and leave come out her mouth, which comes out later.
Mm-hmm.
And when they called back to that joke or that celebratory communication that the boss was saying, I giggled out loud for whatever reason. Because Simon
Yeah,
Pegg said it to I think he said it to Agnes, one of his old friends, which we'll
right.
talk about later. But he goes like, "Yeah, I haven't heard this and this come from you," and it's like, "God damn it, Simon."
Yeah,
Sorry, just off tangent. But yeah. So you're right. That was such a funny
that
moment.
was definitely a funny bit.
'Cause
But yeah,
right,
so he goes to
you can't
China.
find a penis. You can't find.
You cannot touch a penis.
You cannot. Not. It's frowned upon in most societies. Sorry, you were saying?
All right, so yeah, he goes to practice trip to China,
Hmm.
and before all that, Clara finds a picture, an old picture, in his little sock drawer of him, Agnes, as you mentioned, and Miguel, um, and she's a little iffy about it because he knows or she knows that there's a little something going on between them, at least in the past, between
Yeah.
Hector and Agnes. Yeah,
Yeah. So, and when he leaves or when he's gone already, she goes back into sock drawer and notices, oh no, the picture's gone. So she's kind
yeah,
of putting two and two together. Like
mhm,
maybe he's gonna go on this trip to find happiness, but
mhm,
maybe that means like he's gonna go find happiness
yeah,
with Agnes. So she's obviously worried because she already feels like he's one foot out the door because he's not his usual self. His usual self would be this routine guy, and now he's like, all of a sudden, I'm gonna travel the world. Hmm.
yeah. And even before that, I believe his coworker even called out his, sudden downness,
Yeah.
saying, I think I believe you mentioned it about Roger, but it was that was when he told him also when he decided to go to China. And another funny bit is when, right when he says China, you hear a bong.
Yeah, because they drop a plate and then it's yeah. Oh man.
It's like that's classic Simon Pegg right there. So I just thought that was a very fun, another funny relief of that, and then it was just hilarious.
That sound effects and then there's a couple other shots that are just so like they're just so good. They're so good when it kind of jumps from real life live action to some animations to some even like clay figures and things of that nature. Where I'm just like, man, this is a film. Like they put this together. It's not just like a cash grab or anything like that. Not trying to say
Yeah,
like other movies are, but you can just tell that they really took their time and wanted this to be a real success and went that extra mile.
yeah. And then another questionable thing was with the palm reader, how he kind of kicks her out after a session, mentioning that she told Hector that he was going to go on an adventure, and as he shuts the door on her, you could hear from outside, "Who's Agnes?" And obviously, she has no idea who Agnes is, and I think
Mm.
that's what sparked the traveling and stuff like that.
That's really important that you said that too, because as the palm reader kind of, he thinks that she's totally BSing him, but then when that comes out and when later on when she kind of brings when he's back from his trip, this is getting ahead of us, but she
Yeah,
even kind of calls out like, well, there was this happened, and I don't want to spoil it yet, but this happened and this happened. And he's like, whoa, like maybe she is real because
yeah,
some things happen. Like in China, it was really funny to me. So he has this knack of never having a pen. He just always loses his pen.
yeah. Spoil a little foreshadowing of his knack of not having a pen, but yeah, he is on a plane ride and finally off to China, and he somehow gets bumped up to business class,
Yeah,
um, and he sits next to a businessman. I forgot his name already, but
Edward.
yeah,
Edward.
Edward. There you go. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Edward, who could afford first class, but unfortunately was already booked, gets stuck in business class, and you could clearly tell Edward is annoyed by by Simon Pegg's character because of all his his little Velcro patches pockets that are on his little jacket and stuff like that, looking for a pen. Um, and then like his little backpack where he has to put over at the storage. But that's also when you find the little present that Clara sent. It like hides in his little package or his little backpack, of like a pencil and a little notebook.
yeah,
And she wants him to write and draw everything basically that he encounters and sees, and basically to document his journey.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she like I said, she's so supportive. I thought that was a really cute thing to do. He didn't even know it was there until
Mhm.
that happened to him. He's a very clumsy character,
Yeah.
but it adds to him for sure. So in this case, he's looking for a pen. He goes through his 30, 40 odd pockets that he has, And Edward's like, here's a pen. Stop. And he's like, oh, okay, thank you. And Edward's, you can tell he's a businessman. He gives him a pen. He goes, that pen costs more than your car. Like, whoa,
Yeah.
what is this pen have a laser on it? Like, what's going on?
Does it have a laser?
Well, why does it cost more than his car?
That's true. It
Gotta
might be, maybe it's like Octopus Ink or something. I don't know. Who knows?
Octopus ink? It writes invisible?
Yeah, it's, something like that.
Oh, jeez. But yeah, so, and he starts to doodling and he kind of has this conversation with Edward right there. It kind of breaks the ice when he borrows a pen. And Edward's I don't know, like he was a interesting character because I thought he was just going to be that kind of dick character, just a jerk, but they actually have a friendship and have a connection.
Yeah,
on this
because Hector asks Edward, "What is your definition of happiness, or what makes you happy?"
Yeah.
And from there, I mean, I don't think he directly answers it right then and there. But yeah, so they get off the plane, and Edward's looking for his pen, and realizes Hector still has it, and who is just just like a few feet away, and Hector realizes he has the pen, and they kind of meet again, type of thing, after the airplane ride, and Edward is like, "Hey, what the hey? Let me show you happiness,"
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of interesting because Edward seems to have it all put together. He's like a businessman. He travels. He has a car waiting for him, and Hector is taking out this paper map.
Yeah.
Yes.
Actually, on the plane ride,
there we go. I was getting to that.
Our number one
entry.
First journal entry of happiness. If you want to say it, go ahead, John.
Hector writes, making comparisons can spoil your happiness because obviously him compared to Edward, he feels less than. He feels inadequate next to him just because he's comparing their stature, their classes, what have you. And he realizes, I don't have what this guy has.
Yeah.
And that is making me...
The pen being worth more than the car, the champagne not being
good,
first class worthy, like why can't I get first class champagne? And then there is another comparison, like, are you sure like first class is booked? Like, because I don't want to sit next to this guy anymore.
Geez.
But yeah, so that's the first rule of the pursuit of happiness, which is making comparisons.
Wrong movie, Albert.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's the first entry. No, I'm kidding.
Martin Lawrence, right? Will Smith, Martin Lawrence. Were they cops? They're cops.
It's Bad Boys.
Oh. Where Will Smith is fighting aliens.
With his son?
Yeah.
No, that's After Earth.
After Earth. Oh,
this movie does have Will Smith and his son, though.
The one with where he fights zombies, where like they're kind of like infected.
They're that's technically vampires, and that's I Am Legend.
Oh, vampires. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I Am Legend. Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, but you were thinking of The Pursuit of Happiness.
Got it. For sure.
With a Y.
Got it.
Okay. No, I'm kidding. No, you're right. In Hector's pursuit or search of happiness, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's so clumsy. Edward sees it, and like you said, let me show you happiness. So he takes him to this. He basically like, oh, what's your hotel? No. You're staying in this 5-star resort with me.
Yeah.
Go eat this delicious food, and I'm gonna take you up.
Yeah, exactly. Takes him around. What is downtown China? What I would assume is. Sorry, I haven't traveled there yet. And fancy restaurant, you said, and takes them to the club. But at the restaurant is where they really get deep down and discuss the truth of happiness.
It opens up.
Mm-hmm. And he asks Edward, what makes you happy? And that's where he says, you make as much. If you make as much of money as I do, basically, there is no time for happiness.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. He goes, along with that, he goes like, money can't buy happiness and time is money.
Mm-hmm.
And Hector then writes down, a lot of people think happiness means being richer or more important, because that's basically what Edward's saying, that happiness isn't for the rich and it's for the more important people. It's an idea, at least for those of you that aren't where I'm at yet.
Yeah, which is journal entry number 2.
Yep.
And you can clearly see on Edward's face where he is clearly unhappy. You know,
Oh
where
yeah.
he obviously he's making millions of money, is traveling around the world, is going to clubs in China, and you could see it on his face where he's just unhappy.
Yeah.
Um, and that's what
The way he goes through life is he uses his money as a distraction, right? Like,
exactly.
I'm gonna travel, I'm gonna be at these nice places, I'm gonna eat this good food and be around young, beautiful women
Yeah.
because that's a distraction from me being alone and me realizing that
Hmm.
I'm not where I'm not, this isn't what I want. But at the same time, he doesn't want to give up. He even talks about it, like, he doesn't even want to retire. Like, this is what he wants to do because he has nothing else. So we get to the club, and as Edward's off doing what he's doing, you know, paying off the security guards so they can get in without waiting in line and all this stuff, Edward's just kind of doodling and writing in his notebook again. And I think this is where another entry comes up. Forgive me if I'm jumping ahead of myself, but he puts, many people only see happiness in their future.
Yes, which is a passage when the Ying Li, the woman that he's been talking to at the club, takes the book, which I believe is still derived from the dinner that they had with, or dinner he had with Edward,
Mm-hmm.
because he's striving to retire, but he makes more money that it distracts him. You know, he says that like you make goals and you strive for it instead of striving for happiness. So maybe that's where number three comes from.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it's a sad entry because seeing happiness in your future means that, is that something you're working towards, or is that something that's going to be a kind of a constellation?
Hmm.
If you're not doing what you love now, right? Like, you can kind of fall into these questions like, well, what's the point? And it's very easy to slip into that, especially if happiness is in my future, that means I don't have it yet, right? Like,
Right.
that's it's though right now the music is playing and everything's like wild and stuff, like it's a pretty serious entry,
Yeah.
like, at least for me, because some of these other entries are a little sillier, but this one, like, yo.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really good. And then that's when he takes her back to the hotel room.
Yeah, so it seems like too good to be true with her, right? So he's at this club, this young, beautiful Asian woman kind of comes up to him with talking to him, laughs at all the stuff that he says. And she's a student who studies tourists, and he's like, oh my gosh, I'm a tourist. Like, oh, what hotel you stay at? Oh, this one. Oh my gosh, like, what a coincidence. I stay there too. Like, it seems almost too good to be true.
Right. Which
And
I totally fell for it the first time watching it. I was like, oh,
really,
okay.
I didn't. I totally did. Not like, spoiler alert, guys, she was paid to, like, you know, be his escort or whatever. But when I was first watching it, the whole time I'm just like, nah, this is too good to be true. Like, I didn't think that she was already paid off by Edward, because Edward paid the bouncer to
Yeah.
set this all up.
Right.
I didn't think that that was the case, but I definitely thought, like, is she an escort? Like, is she trying to just get money from
Yeah.
him? Like, it,
Yeah.
and it wasn't until they get back to the room, right? And he's gonna lay down, and she's like, oh, I'm gonna go take a quick shower or whatever.
Hmm.
And when she comes back, she gets completely naked, and he's asleep.
Yeah.
Edward's asleep on the bed while she's like, oh, I thought I was going to, you know,
Yeah.
sex with
Do
this
the
man.
dirty. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Naked time. So it wasn't until she just cuddled up next to him in bed and went to sleep with him, I was like,
Mhm.
oh snap, maybe I was wrong. I think she legit
Yeah.
is, this is just what's really happening to him.
Yeah. Exactly. Um, but you could tell that she has a soft spot, as we find out later, for what she really is. Um, and then the morning after, he invites her to lunch.
Yeah.
And then we get journal entry number 6,
Mm-hmm.
uh, which is avoiding
Number 4.
number 4.
Yeah.
Are
We
you
get
sure?
number 4. Yeah. Happiness could be the freedom to love more than one woman at a time.
Right. I'm jumping ahead. I am sorry.
No, no,
Yes.
no. You're good. You're good. I'm happy you I am happy that you took some notes, Albert.
Yeah. But yeah. So happiness can be the freedom to love more than one woman at the same time. Um, and I just thought, I don't know about that entry, you know? But
He was definitely thinking with one of his brains.
exactly.
That's for sure. Let's just say that that was a penis that he was trying to look for. Uh,
and and later he does end up crossing it out, so it's okay. Ladies or gentlemen, that this entry is canceled, nulled.
yeah, yeah, and it's good that it was because yeah, obviously, like he was just very caught up in the moment. Even Clara was like, not that she was saying go do whatever you want, but she kind of gave him like free reign to
Permission.
like
Yeah.
go experience life, like go experience this trip. So
And that was based off of the picture, right? Of
yes,
Agnes, him, and Miguel that we're
right,
going to be later seeing.
right. So that was something. Is it Miguel or Michael?
I want to say Miguel,
I like Miguel.
but
No, we're gonna go with Miguel. I don't care anymore.
you can't spell Mike without bicycle, or you can't spell bike with bicycle.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know.
So yes, he invites her to lunch and she's really taken back. She's like, oh my
Yeah,
gosh, I can't believe you want to have lunch with me. And while they're at lunch, though he doesn't have another entry yet, he talks to her about happiness because she seems really intrigued with him as a person. And
hmm
they see these three older women that are just hanging out on the street because they have nowhere else to go, and all the money
yeah,
that they do make, they send back to their family.
hmm
And this is when I think you're bringing it up, where she alludes to like she can't go back home.
exactly.
She
Yeah,
can't show her face because the way she gets money.
it's frowned upon.
Yes, exactly.
hmm
It's not the most clean way, if you. It's not like something that you can be proud of. Well, money is money, right? But yeah, something that she's not proud of. And
Yeah,
I'm to find out that yeah, she was paid, being like some type of escort for the bouncer that Edward paid off, and
yeah. Who then comes to that lunch spot and kind of takes her away,
yeah,
and
literally takes her away.
yeah, and then Simon is chasing after them and gets a little punch and slapped by the bouncer and Ying, and
Hmm.
then he then realizes journal entry number 5, right? Sometimes happiness is not knowing the whole story.
And
Um,
yeah, another way to say that is ignorance is bliss, right?
True. That I was trying to find another way of saying it, and that's exactly what it is. But I wholeheartedly don't agree with this because I feel like you're just gonna end up being hurt, just like how Simon got hurt, or Hector, sorry. Um,
Oh yeah, Simon Hector, yeah, for sure.
yeah,
Yeah, and I agree completely. Though it's like happy you're happy with an illusion, right? You're happy with something that's not real and not genuine.
yeah.
It's a
It's a
band
little tough.
it's a
Yeah,
band-aid. It's for
yeah,
sure a band-aid. So it sucks, right? It does suck like once you know the whole story. I guess that's why there's all these talks about like, oh, you're just in the honeymoon stage, like stay, if you're in a new relationship, you're happy, everything's going so well, oh my gosh, like nothing can go wrong. It's like, well, you're in the honeymoon stage,
yeah.
get to know the person, get to know the whole story, and
hmm
then you can really figure it out. And I think that's where this comes from. So up to this point, at least for me, it's showing me that Hector didn't really live a full life. He didn't get to experience a
Yep.
lot of things. He didn't have time to have a little chaos in his life.
Yeah. Exactly.
And so these eye-opening events and examples, though they're happening really fast and just to progress the story, it's general themes that we all go through as we grow up and grow old and mature and kind of realize, right? Like you were saying earlier, you like a little structure probably because you had a lot more chaos growing up, and it feels better to be comfortable and
Yep.
to be in harmony than to always have to worry about where are we gonna hang out, what street are we gonna hang out on
Yeah.
like yeah.
Yeah. And then from there, he, not necessarily gives up, but realizes that happiness is, not fully there and travels to the mountain. Which is
So the
pretty,
real reason why he went to China, right?
yeah. Yeah.
That's what I took. He went to China to go speak to the monks.
Oh, did he? I didn't really get that.
Yeah, that's why I was like, why is he going to China in the beginning? And then when he gets to the monk, so he goes to this temple, he wants to speak to some monks.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh man, that's why he's going to China. He wants to speak to people who are enlightened, right? That have
Yeah.
kind of, yeah, that are out there that know what happiness really is.
Mhm.
And it's an interesting dynamic for the film because before he goes and meets with these people that I would say are not materialistic and probably have little to nothing, but they probably have a lot of wisdom and all that good stuff, all of the intangibles. Before he meets them, he meets one of the most materialistic people he could ever meet in
True.
Edward.
Yeah.
So I thought that that was an interesting dynamic that the film gave us. It gave us, this is what you want to strive to: money, power, women, blah blah blah. But really his trip here was to see like,
The simple
because the
life.
monks they don't have much. They have like their little temple hut that they're in, and they're putting up a old direct TV dish
Yeah.
that probably they got like as a recycling gift. Like, I don't know, like, it was one of those things. So I thought that that was really interesting. That's when I was like, that's why he went to China.
Okay. Yeah, that could be it. And him being denied entrance of that mountain was just like, yo, today's Monday, we're closed. where where else am I supposed to be going? It's a freaking mountain that I traveled maybe like days to get to. Sorry, we're closed on Mondays.
That's how
So,
Mondays are, Albert. Mondays
yeah.
suck.
But yeah. And then
uh,
what else is
yeah,
after that?
we get another entry right after that, as he's speaking to the monks. Well,
Right. Go
the
ahead.
monk.
Hmm.
Oh, okay. So as he's talking to the monk, and the monk is very interested in his story, and he's like, even when you get to the end, call me and let me know what happens. So he asks the monk, and the monk gives him this: avoiding unhappiness is not the road to happiness.
Yeah. And what led to that entry was a quote that the monk kind of stuck to me, so I wrote it down, which was more important than what you're searching is what we are avoiding.
Ooh.
So, like, and then this kind of like makes me want to, give you the question, like, how does one experience happiness if you haven't experienced unhappiness? So how do you know exactly what happiness is if you're if you haven't experienced anything at all, type of thing.
Right, right, right. And that's a good way to look at it, right? Like, if you have nothing but good days,
Mhm.
are they all like, how can you have nothing but good days without experiencing bad days? Like, how can you, what are you judging it to?
Exactly.
It's all relative to perspectives
Mhm.
and your experiences, because relative to you, Albert, like, let's just hypothetically speaking, happiness to you can be like, I got um no, maybe not to you, but just in general. Say if I graduated high school, I'm going to college. Okay, cool. I got accepted into UCLA. Oh my gosh, like huge, huge, super big deal, super, super cool. But to me, that's like the goal. To other people who are, mad geniuses, they're probably trying to strive for like an Ivy League, a Yale, a Harvard, Westlake. That's Ivy League of the West Coast, Caltech, what have you. So then they get into UCLA, they're just like, whatever.
Yeah.
But to you, it was like, oh my gosh, I got in. Like, this is such a big deal. But to other people, relatively speaking, like, what are you judging it based off, or
Yeah.
what are their experiences? If you
Yeah.
don't know pain, like, do you know pleasure? Like, there's so many dualities, right?
Exactly.
Between one.
And just like Hector, he hasn't really experienced much of life. So, which is probably why he's going to the monks and asking that. And we kind of get why.
Mm-hmm. But that's avoiding something, right? Like, going into more physics and math. Like, if you avoid unhappiness, which means, let's say that unhappiness is negative numbers, like, you can still avoid negative numbers but still not have positive numbers, if that
Just
makes
stuck
sense.
at zero. Yep.
Purgatory, which can be worse than experiencing one or the other.
Hmm. True.
So those are interesting things. Yeah, great question, Albert. Great question.
And then with the dish he was able to install, he was able to finally Skype Clara.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you can kind of tell. Okay, for sure you can kind of tell that China was not the source of happiness, of figuring it out because based off of that conversation, he mentions that he met Edward, and Clara is like, oh, It shows that money can buy happiness, and from there, he kind of is like, no, I lived through it, and you can't buy happiness, and he kind of falls back in a slump, knowing that like, what am I doing? What am I
Yeah.
experiencing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Which is partly why, or he then decides to travel to Africa.
Right. He decides to travel to Africa after that to see Miguel, his good friend, who, and they leave that kind of conversation up in the air. If you were like a little on edge, I felt some tense moments between him and Clara, which wasn't the a good way, but he couldn't help it. The dish got knocked off, right?
Yeah.
So on his way to Africa, and in this case, he went from business class, which they described like here's here's economy seats, and then you were in business, first class is all the way at the top. You're gonna be like,
I'm sorry, where? Oh, okay, I see.
I'm still going.
Yeah.
I'm still
Oh,
going.
you're still going? Okay.
I was still going. I'm still going. But yeah, he's gonna be on like a very dangerous flight, which he was. He felt like every shake of that plane,
Yeah.
old beat up plane, and his passenger, his person right next to him, this woman goes, "Oh no, this plane has been through a lot and it's still flying, so it must be good."
Yeah. Very optimistic.
Very, very optimistic, and she was a great character. I love her and her family and everything that they were about.
Yeah. She writes her address or coordinates. I don't know what she wrote down.
Coordinates. She
very
wrote
long.
coordinates, latitude and longitude. You can't Google Map that. You're gonna need an astrolabe for that. That's the logo. That's my logo, Albert. That's Theory Labs. We're an astrolabe, man. That's the coordinates we enter.
But yeah, so she invites him to get sweet potato stew one of the days of the week that he's there.
Yep.
And then that's where journal entry number 7. If you want to take that away, John, go ahead.
So while they're talking, she kind of poses like, they're talking about people, and she goes, "Does this person predominantly bring you A, up, or B, down?" And that kind of determined like the happiness that they're bringing into your life.
Yeah, which is pretty good. Obviously you want to keep the people that you want, that bring you joy, and you don't want to keep the people that brings all the negativity in your life.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And Africa was a very interesting series of events that Hector goes through. I think there's a lot of funny moments, and there's also some like harsh truths that he kind of has come across. But he goes and meets up with Miguel, who they're both escorted by this guy with a huge assault rifle, just chilling in his lap, like, "Yo, yeah, so we're gonna go to this hotel. We're gonna help you." It seems like Miguel is like a doctor, and he's just kind of helping out, like somewhat like a Peace Corps kind of thing.
Yeah, the hospital, helping out the locals and stuff like that.
Yeah. So that was super interesting, and Hector, Hector gets to help him, and while they're speaking with a boy who seems to be sick, he's like, "I need to go see my sister," and we kind of get a little bit more backstory on like who Miguel is, because Miguel is like this just kind of dope friend. He's just like all about helping people and really saving the world, and Hector is allowed to help him too. But he's like, "Yeah, you can't see your sister because if you're sick, it's not going to help, right?"
Yeah.
But he
also brings a little light to like donations and charity, because I don't know if you heard or caught it, where he said a lot of the donations and money stops at the city and doesn't go to the villages, and which is why he's basically there, is because he wants to help the locals in those villages get better, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, it just speaks to just how good of a person, and really it should say a lot about Hector too, right? Because they were such good friends growing up, so it kind of adds to his character too. Like, Hector is a good guy, and like he's going on this journey, but like he's not just some asshole selfish guy. Like he's a good dude too, which kind of shines through, because after this day he kind of goes to this bar, what you would call a bar, cracks a couple jokes with this stranger there. They're both having a beer, and he was just genuinely nice to him. He had a great joke, in my opinion, because the guy seems like all tense, like, "Who are you? Why are you asking me all these questions?" And he's like, "Oh no, like, where are you from? Like, let me see your passport." And he pulls out like a $100 bill with Ben Franklin on it. And Hector's like, Oh no, I like your haircut now.
It
Such a good joke. It's
was
such a
too
good
funny.
joke. Yeah,
Uh,
it's the guy to crack a smile. So, yeah, Hector's just genuinely going on his journey, and he helps people along the way for sure.
yeah. And from that bar scene, we learned that he's a farmer who basically deals drugs.
You know,
Um, he even asks if what his happiness is, and I believe his answer was, um, if you want to be happy, you should take care of your own, which is his wife, his family, his kids, and all that. Um,
right,
yeah,
right. It doesn't make an entry, but it's definitely something where that's what's meaningful to him, right? Like, keeping his family happy and healthy is what's most important. And Hector at this point is just saying, well, you know, so they're not happy, and he's like, yeah, my wife has these medications, blah blah blah, and he's like, oh, well, I'm a doctor, let me see the prescription, I can help you out. And the guy's like, well, what's in it for you, like, what's all, a very jaded way of looking at this situation. Hector's like, no
yeah.
dude, I'm just trying to help, like, um crap, I forgot what he said exactly, but it was something along the lines of like, we don't want, like, if we allow misery to exist, then we're doing something wrong. Like, we should be out there to kind of end misery and to help each other. And that kind of really sets, I mean, the drug lord, Diego something,
Barresco.
Diego Brasco, he's just like, like, fuck you, you're not some self-righteous jerk, like, you can't just come into my territory and just tell me all stuff. But no, Hector really means it. That's like, you can genuinely tell, like, this is what he's
Yeah.
about, so he helps him out, which is super cool, I thought.
Hmm.
And he has this conversation back with Miguel. He's like, oh yeah, dude, like, I met this guy, I'm helping him out, blah blah blah. Oh man, I have his pen.
That pen
And
stealer.
right, and Miguel's like, yo, why are you helping out this drug lord, like,
Yeah,
that's what the hell's wrong with you, this and
yeah.
that. And
Which he didn't had no clue about.
yeah, he didn't know that, how, like, okay, cool, he's a drug lord, but he didn't know to what extent. Like, no, that, like, everyone knows who Diego is, like, that
Yeah.
dude is bad
Hmm.
news bears. And this is where we get another entry, if you remember what it is, Albert.
Yeah. Number 8, right? Just to be sure.
This is number 8. That's right.
Yep. So it's happiness is answering your calling, and this is all while watching, Miguel do his work, his job, and helping out the kids and doing surgery on the leg. And then another funny bit was like they're all outside, trying to take, I don't know, I think it's a bullet out of the kid's leg or something.
Yeah.
And then Hector turns around and he's like, "There's a lion. Actually, no, wait, there's two lions right
There's
here."
two lines.
He turns
You were,
turns to the soldier guard guy, and he's like sitting down listening to his iPod. He's like, "Yo, put your iPod down. Two lions right here."
there's two lines about it. Yeah. Oh, that was a good moment.
Yeah,
And not only is Miguel like healing this boy's leg, but you can tell, like, he's healing, like, he's giving everyone such peace of mind, and like,
yeah,
people do care, and they're
mhm,
not forgotten. So yeah, he uplifts their spirits in addition to healing their bodies, which,
yeah,
like, Miguel's just a good dude, right?
yeah. Wait, like too cool.
Yep. 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 He has the long blonde surfer hair. Like, this guy gets it.
And then another journal entry, right, comes in that same type of or in that same no, no.
Is it? I thought it was later, after he goes to jail, guys. I thought it was after this jail scene. Oh no, no, no! You're right. It is right now. No, you're right. It is right now. I'm sorry, Albert. Albert, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But yes, you're right. He
Stuck in the
said.
lab a little bit too long or something. I don't know.
I'm sorry, Albert. You can do this one. You can do this
All
one.
right, so journal entry number 9, right?
Yeah.
Happiness is being loved for who you are, and this is the scene where he's basically admiring Miguel, like, "Yo, what you have here, you're doing such a good job," and basically taking away his job, because he's just a psychiatrist. Um, uh, what he's doing is a necessity, and what Hector's doing is a luxury. Because if you go to a richer area, it's like the more therapists there are, because people want to talk about their problems for whatever reason because they have more money. Um, but then the driver who has the big gun, says the the body is just as important as the mind, or the mental, which is very true. Especially we during this time where like mental is extremely important. Um, and that's when also we find out that Miguel and the driver are in love, or at least hinted. Um, but we get the gist.
Yeah, they definitely allude to that. So you're right. When Miguel says happiness is being loved for who you are, and Hector is the one who says just what you said, like in the richer neighborhoods, you'll see more psychiatrists.
Yeah.
You won't see as many people like you, like legit just helping people. And
Hmm.
that's when what I would say is Miguel's love interest go kind of sides with Hector, but mental, like you said, mental health is just as important. And it went deeper, being happiness, being loved for who you are. Miguel, they allude, we can all kind of assume, okay, cool, yes, he is gay, and he's being loved for that. His driver, the other gentleman with them, loves Miguel for who he is, for being that strong person, not because of him being a doctor and helping people, but he's being loved. I think it went deeper than that. We just finished June, which is Pride Month, and like that's all happiness is, right? Like they want to be loved for who they are, and yeah, definitely something more powerful there that they kind of handled in a very mature way, in a very funny way, because again, Simon Pegg just, go to richer neighborhood, you're gonna find me. It's
Yeah.
one of those things.
Exactly.
But you're right. And then now now we're gonna have a lot of tragedy, right?
Yep. But before that,
Mm.
he also Skypes Clara in the pool hall or in the billiard.
Yes.
And it's so funny because like she's like getting ready. She's like in her underwear and stuff like that, and everyone from the background is noticing that she's like kind of
Getting
nude.
dressed.
Yeah, getting
Yep.
dressed, and like everyone's behind her, and like she's like greeting the boy like hello boys, and like smacks her butt. I thought that was a funny little bit.
Oh,
Uh,
for sure. And Simon's like, "Yo, guys, back up, back up. I'm trying to talk to my lady."
yeah, and which was a quick call because she said she was getting ready to go out, um, and she is, I believe, she is clearly trying to move on from after what Hector has done. Basically left. Um,
Right,
and
because he can't even answer. She keeps saying, should I stay, or am I supposed to go? Like, do you want me to still be here when you get back? And he never really gives her an answer. So she's just trying to figure that out too,
which
right?
is fair.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, for sure, for sure. Yeah, don't blame her.
Yeah.
It reminded me of a Drake song or Drake lyric, because what?
No, no, go ahead.
Okay, because after
I,
I
I
forgot
want
what.
to hear John rap.
No, 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 it's not a genre rap, but you know, Drake, one of Drake's tracks. How does it go? It's like you started at Hotline Bling, and it's even unpopular. Like you started wearing less and going out more.
Ah, yes, yes,
Because
yes.
that's what she was doing. She was dressed like she was wearing black lingerie, like looking super hot, and she was wearing like a pretty revealing dress from when she picked it up.
Yeah.
So it's like, wait, you don't go out, but you don't dress like that. Like that's a new dress. And she's like, well, yeah, this is a new dress, and yeah, I am going out. So it kind of gave me I was like, yep, Drake has our back. Drake knows what's up.
And then, Hector's like, you know what? F that. I'm gonna go to the coordinates and have myself some sweet potato stew.
That's it. That's it. And that is our next entry, right? Sweet
Yeah.
potato stew, which to me kind of meant like family, because when he goes in with the family, they're all there, right?
Yeah.
Like, everyone's in that house, and it's a small room, and there's like 20. It looks like 20 people are in that room, and they're all sharing sweet potato stew from this one pot that doesn't look like it could feed everyone, but they're all just having a good time. He gets hugs all around from everyone there.
Family and comfort food, you can say.
Gotta have the comfort food,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah.
So yeah, that's what the sweet potato stew, like happiness is that, like it's
Hmm.
family and comfort.
Yeah. And then I guess on his way back, um, is where he kind of gets kidnapped because
Yeah,
his taxi gets hijacked by
his
another
taxi get,
drug cartel or gang lord
peddlers, if you
or
will.
something
Yeah,
like that. Yeah.
yeah. So he gets locked up. I mean, they take all his stuff. They smack him in the head with a rifle. he makes friends with a rat, which was super cute
Yeah.
in his cell. But yeah, he writes another entry. Let me know if I'm getting ahead of myself, Howard. But he writes an
Oh, you're
entry:
good.
"Fear is an impediment to happiness."
Yes. Um,
Go ahead.
which is very true.
So I'm gonna have to
Uh,
disagree, but I wanna hear your side first.
I honestly did not take anything from this. This was the boring part of the movie for me.
For sure, for
Unfortunately,
sure.
um, I just feel like it stalls the movie a bit because it goes nowhere really. But
Yeah, yeah.
go ahead.
You're right. You're right. It is of the movie. It's the most boring. I agree with that, and I disagree with fear impeding happiness because honestly, going back to what you said about if you haven't had bad days, how can you have good days? Like how we had that little conversation. I feel like fear is that little kind of X factor that lets you know you're alive. If you're not, and this was talked about in the movie too, from the woman later on, where she's like, if you're afraid of death, that means you're afraid to live.
Yeah.
And so that's what fear does. Like fear is a good thing. It lets you know you're alive. It lets you know that you care about something. Like
Hmm.
something matters to you.
I don't know if this is the same thing, but I got the quote from the from exactly where he was kidnapped, where the narrator says how Hector was scared to death of dying before he has really lived. Is that the same
Yeah,
thing?
yeah, exactly. That's exact. Yeah, I remember the narrator saying that because that's exactly right. He's afraid that he'll never get the chance to live, and that's a good thing. That's what fear will kept him alive. Fear let his survival instinct take over for him to get it out of here. I think there's a big difference between fear and like stress. Like if you stress and you worry about something, that will kill you. But fear is that little X factor that helps you get to where you're going.
Yeah. Sure.
At least that's for me personally, and it doesn't have to do with the movie. But I didn't agree with that. I don't think the fear impedes happiness. I think they're parallel lines.
I feel like
Um,
you're getting just living and happiness kind of synonymous, which I'm not really getting because you can live and still be unhappy.
right, right, but that's not because of fear.
True. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're right. You're right.
Yeah, and it was at this moment where Hector thought he was gonna die, where fear came into his life, that he started to realize, one, I didn't really live, and two, I'm not gonna experience happy. Like it,
Oh, okay. I see where
you
you're
know what I
coming
mean?
from now. Yeah.
Yeah, like okay, cool. He never lived, but he never experienced fear.
Hmm.
Now he's starting to live and enjoy life, and he experiences fear, and it only should propel him to want to live more, and to
Yeah.
want to do more and experience more. So that's where I'm trying to get to. And though this is the most boring part of the movie, I think that this is an important part, not just for the movie, but in general for people, especially in a time like this. For me, at least, with all this solitude and extra time on my hands, it's the same amount of time I've always had. But in quarantine, like I had a chance, we get the chance to take a step back
Yeah.
and to reflect. And
Yeah.
that's what Hector does in this moment as he's lying on that jail
Yeah.
cell. He's reflecting on his life, on what matters to him, on what he wants to do, and all that stuff. And it's yes, it could be boring in terms of the film, but in terms of growth as a person,
Yeah.
self-reflection, it kind of gives him this perspective, right? Because now he's starting to piece together what really matters to him, and what's while living in mediocrity, why he was way more unhappy than he is now. Because I'm sure even going through this horrific traumatic event, he feels more alive and happier than he probably ever has. Not that moment specifically for
Yeah.
him.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's never felt more alive than when he started this trip.
Yeah.
And he's able to kind of show that in his self-reflection while
Hmm.
locked up, while he has nothing else to do. There's no other distractions. There's no money. There's no women. It's just him and Rat-a-tat.
Yeah. Um, and then yeah, from there, basically, I guess the leader of that group is reading his little journal entries, and it finds it hilarious.
Yep.
And so they finally bring him out of the cell, and to the point where um, he asks the leader what's his happiness, you know,
Yep.
And his happiness is if you want it, take it, which is classic dealer answer.
What
But
it's what you
nothing,
grow. Yeah.
yeah, nothing
It's what
much
to
to it.
expect. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but essentially
Yeah.
to break free out of that, he needs proof of knowing Diego because he mentions he knows Diego Brasco,
Yep.
the other drug farmer, and it's from the pen.
Aha. Ahaha. He kept that pen, and it saved his life, literally.
Yeah, and so they basically blindfold him, drop him off out in the middle of nowhere,
Mm.
and from there finds his way back. We don't know how, but it's just a quick montage or a quick cut, and we get journal entry number 12.
We do. We get the next one, which is really important too, right? It's happy. We get two kind of back to back, but
Yeah,
the first one is happiness is feeling completely alive.
yeah,
And
which is
again,
what you said, right? Basically.
yeah, it without the fear, how can you feel alive? So that's where I was getting to. But yeah, he's ecstatic. He has a new breath on life. He's celebrating. He goes back with that family. They're all dancing together. They're celebrating. He has this kind of weird shirt on now, a weird like cool little button up. I need to buy it, size medium. Thanks, Albert. But yeah, it's a beautiful little montage.
Yeah.
Beautiful little montage for sure. For
And
sure.
then from there, that same montage, I believe it's number 13. Happiness is know how to celebrate.
Yeah, yeah. Big victories and small victories, right? Like I don't think we as a society celebrate the small victories as much as we do. Um, so yeah, absolutely. You gotta celebrate. You gotta take time to praise each other on a
Yeah,
job well done. In this case, it's just being alive, right?
yeah. And then after that, he Skypes Clara again and tells her that he's been kidnapped. And obviously, she's worried, afraid, and was scared, and saying that he has a cut.
Yep.
Um, but he says he's fine. And I'm pretty sure after that, she was expecting to for him to, like say you love her and like I'm sorry and I'm coming back home.
Yep.
But no, she conversation goes somewhere else,
Yep.
and she realizes that, and at this point, she wants to hear, whether or not we're going to be together or not. And so she kind of gets a little in a bad mood and doesn't know. He tells her he doesn't know where he's going, but
Yeah.
after that call, tells Miguel he's going to California to see Agnes.
He's going to LA.
Yep.
Yep. Yep. And LA is where he goes for sure. But on the way there, did you notice he was sitting in first class on this airplane ride?
Yeah, which was I was wondering how low key because like I don't know, is it cheaper to get a flight from Africa? I don't know.
I don't know. I'm sure it was just plot, right? But yeah,
Yeah,
they made it very known. Like, okay, cool. Hector is in first class.
yeah, yeah. And on
But they
that
can't.
flight,
Mm-hmm.
um, there's a woman I guess who had surgery like a few months before,
Yeah.
and I guess the altitude was making her brain swell,
Yes.
and they were either going to do an emergency landing or they paged the doctor, and Hector was that doctor and suggested the pilot to fly lower, and they were able to fly lower and keep the flight going because this was her last chance to see her sister. Um, and I got a little teary eyed. I'm not gonna lie, I get teary eyed easily, but this is where I had no idea what they were talking about, but I just knew the emotion was there,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
feeling. So
For sure. It's again. It added perspective to his life where he thought so many things, but at the end of the day, like your plans can go to shit as like what the woman was experiencing. If it wasn't for him, she would never have gotten there. But yeah, you're right. It was for me. I agree. There wasn't a lot of like things that were said. It was just, yo, this is reality. And
mhm.
he takes off her wig, and you see the scar, and he does. They make it through. It was a good win for Hector.
Yeah, it was a very heartfelt moment. And number 14 journal entry, right?
The next one, that's right. She tells him because he's kind of feeling down and out, and he probably feels like he's taking a lot of things for granted. And she goes, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! Listening is love." That's the entry that he writes down.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, that can be said for a lot of things, but specifically for his job, right? Because he listens to his patients and he feels like he doesn't always get to help help them be happy. And she's like, yo, listening is enough. Like
That's why they're there.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that was a good moment as she is sent off. He gets to go meet up with Agnes.
Hmm. And from there, we find that she is pregnant, has two
She's
kids,
pregnant. Yep.
and married.
Yep. Beautiful house.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah.
Beautiful house. Beautiful house. Beautiful kids. Her husband was handsome. I know I've seen him somewhere before.
Like at the mall or something. What do you mean?
No. He like he. I forget what other movies I've seen him in, but yeah.
Okay. Okay.
What at the ball? No, what? No. But he's a mathematician, so you know there's a chance, Albert.
Oh, he was your tutor, is what you're saying.
No, he's
Oh,
an actor.
oh, okay. Got it.
Geez.
My
But
bad.
anyways, yeah, he gets to go with Agnes, and I feel like this was good closure
Hmm.
for what he was experiencing at the
Yeah.
time.
Um, and then he gets a call from Clara.
Mm-hmm.
Um, tells her that he's in California,
Yep.
and she blows up a little bit in the middle of the street, and basically accuses him, and like she knew it all along, but he basically tells her straight, like, yo, she's married, two kids, but you're kind of smothering me. Um, and they kind of break up. They're on a break,
Yeah.
friends.
Yeah. They definitely. Yeah, because she kind of asked him like, "Is this as bad as I think it's gonna be? Like, is this the bad?" And he goes, "Yeah, this is." So, um, what's kind of sad too is though he throws like, "Oh, she's pregnant. She has two kids and she's married like happily." Um, she was kind of right to be a little worried because he even mentions it to Agnes a little bit later, like,
Hmm.
"Oh, I always wondered about what could have been."
Yeah,
And
and
Agnes was like,
yeah,
"Yeah, go ahead."
no, go.
No, Agnes was like, "Yo, like, of course you wonder that, and of course that's going through your head, but that's a fantasy." And don't you know when you put people on a pedestal like that, like they'll never be able to live up to it, and it's not fair to anyone, especially like those that are real in your life. And I thought that was a really powerful thing for her to say, like, I'm better than your fantasy because I'm real, because I'm here. And that was like amazing closure for me, at least,
Yeah.
when Agnes said that to Hector.
Mhm.
um yeah. Sorry
And
to say.
he also asked Agnes what's her happiness, and it's basically her marriage, her kids, her family, and the only thing that makes her unhappy is how long does she have, because knowing that it's not going to last forever,
Yeah,
being the realistic person she is.
yeah,
um and yeah, I'm really glad he went to California, because this is the closure I believe he needed. um and honestly, if he skips those two countries and went straight to California, might have been the same story.
right. No, yeah. And what's cool, what's kind of meta, I think, at this moment too, is they're on their way to see one of Agnes's, I think, colleagues or friends. It's like some
Yeah.
super hipster professor guy.
Yeah.
The guy's like,
He was really cool, by the way.
yeah, he was super cool, but he was giving a lecture in a hoodie and a jacket on. Like, yo, you're 70 years old, man, but you're great. That professor was swaggy, but yeah, and he wrote the book,
Hmm.
not the book, but he wrote a book on happiness, right?
Yeah.
But more towards like your emotions and how your brain works and how it
Yeah.
kind of registers happiness
Hmm.
and all that. So that was super cool. So they walk in on the lecture, and he has this crazy machine that hooks up to your brain, so he can kind of read your emotions.
Yeah.
It's good. It was funny, and I'm just like, man, this guy's great.
And before that,
Yeah.
journal entry number
Ah,
15,
perfect.
which is the last entry.
Yep.
Nostalgia is what it's not what it used to be, which
Yeah.
is basically from that argument they had between Agnes and Hector. Just being the reality of it, and not thinking of what ifs and what could have happened. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I'm not going to completely agree with this one either, because certain things that are nostalgia to me, it's like watching an old show. Maybe it didn't age well, right? But you watch that show because it brings you comfort.
Yeah.
Like one of my favorite shows to ever watch is Psych. Is it the best show ever? No. But whenever I go back to it for nostalgia reasons, because it takes me back to those times when maybe if I was going through something or whatever it is, like it got to comfort me and it was able to just kind of be there. So I get, why he wrote that example, because obviously his nostalgia was more of a fantasy versus what was really gonna happen. But nostalgia for me doesn't always like.
I
It's
guess
not
he wants to actually live through that nostalgia again, which you can't.
that you're right, because if he was able to live, like if she wasn't married with kids, he probably would have thought like, okay, cool, something might happen between us.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you're right. So we get to great point, Albert. We get to this machine, this kind of brain machine that kind of registers your emotions or allows you to kind of track them. And Agnes goes first, and the professor's like, okay, cool, think of a time you're happy, sad, and what was the last one?
Happy,
Happy,
sad, fear.
happy, sad,
Scared.
and afraid. Yeah,
Yeah.
scared. Happy, sad, and scared. And she goes and thinks, and he goes, okay, cool, boom, boom, boom. Yep, you're easy to read. You're an open book.
Also, sorry. Before this, he
Yeah,
was before the machine. He was doing a lecture,
yes,
and he mentioned that um, gonna paraphrase this, but not so much the
yeah.
pursuit of happiness, but the happiness of pursuit. So I thought this was kind of contradictory based off of what Edward said, because you try to make a goal and you strive for it instead of striving for happiness. I guess I feel like that kind of contradicts the beginning part, but I'm not quite sure. Maybe you have some insight, but
Perspective, right? So for Edward, happiness was accomplishing a goal, but then for the professor, it's not exactly what you're arriving towards, but it's the journey. Like
uh,
the freedom and the luxury to be able to even go on these journeys
mhm,
should be fulfilling enough, right? Because as we see, Edward has this high luxury lifestyle, has money, has all this crazy things, but then you go to that poor African community, they don't have those things, but that doesn't mean that what they're striving for isn't just as important. Just because it doesn't progress your bank account, that doesn't mean that there's no value in it. So just the ability to kind of appreciate the journeys that you're going on, and the like it's a privilege for us, right, to be able to do exactly what we want to do. Like I can wake up and not necessarily do whatever I want, right? Like I can't kill people, we're not living in the purge, but
right.
at the same time, like I'm able, right, but like at the same time I'm able to get up every day and, so to speak, like live my parents' dream, because my parents probably struggled and went through so much more than what I've had to go through
Yeah.
as a person, and that's a privilege. So I think that's what the professor was kind of getting towards. Like the pursuit of happiness is, one thing,
Will Smith.
but if you have happiness, you don't have to pursue it, right? So
Sure.
dialing back, so instead of pursuing happiness, let's say we have happiness, and now let's just pursue
Yeah.
whatever it is we want. What those, like I said, those privileges and those things that we take for granted. So that's what
Yeah.
I took away from what the professor meant. Like
Very good point.
again, it's all perspective.
Yeah. Good point. I went over my head on that one, and I see it now. But yeah.
Jerk. No, I'm kidding. Love you, Albert. But no, yeah. So then it's Hector's turn to step up to the plate and go into this like emotional reading machine.
hmm
And as he steps into there, he has a phone call with Claire, and this is actually like a beautiful moment of the movie too. I'm not sure if you want to explain it.
So basically, when he first started, he wasn't able to produce enough emotion for the machine to show.
Yeah,
Um, and the professor himself says, he has some sort of barrier of to show his true emotion,
yeah,
and sort of described it as like a childlike thought process.
yep,
And it's funny because the mic was still on, so Hector could kind of hear.
yeah,
So he starts thinking deeper thoughts, but it still wasn't enough until he gets a call from Clara, and she is sort of sobbing on the phone and says, I don't want to be your mother. And from there, they basically make up, saying that, I'm sorry, and they're apologetic, and from there you can see the brain waves. You can see all three emotions flare up,
Right.
and this is the first time I believe the professor has seen it through the machine. Um, and so it was like he describes it as the Aurelius Borealis or something like that,
Yeah.
the Northern Lights. And um, from there, do you believe that's like the true meaning of happiness, where you have all three lights flaring up like that?
So for me personally, I thought that this was something a little bit deeper. It because it was like think about a time that you're happy, sad, and scared. If you're experiencing them all at the same time, at least to me, like it was love that Hector was experiencing, and
Mm,
that's what the professor was seeing. He was seeing someone genuinely feeling like this overwhelming emotions, but at the same time, like it's kind of crazy. Like how can you be scared yet happy yet sad at the same time? So I
right.
felt like it was a deeper level of happiness. It wasn't just he was happy. It was like kind of all these things. So to me, he was experiencing love at the time.
Right. That makes sense
What?
because
Oh,
you never know what's going to happen with that relationship, which is
yeah,
the scared
yeah,
and sad. Him being apologetic and sad for what has done,
yeah,
and happy for making up and trying to make things right. Um, and there's little cut scenes in between of him seeing Clara getting married to actually the boss, his
yeah,
her boss, and
yeah.
then later it's actually him getting married with Clara, and you can see in the background of him and his dog finally grown up.
Exactly, because his childlike innocence or his childlike brain of wonder and all that, it's no longer just something he suppresses or something he experienced when he was young. It's who he is now. And we didn't talk about it earlier, which is something I forgot to mention. He rides like these kind of toy airplanes. Like he has a big model airplane that he rides. He has like a remote control for.
Yeah,
Now he's taking Clara at the end, right, with him to go on this like little trip. Like, oh yeah, we're gonna go to the park and fly these airplanes. And to me, what I forgot to mention, and I was thinking about it now, is um, he lives in such a in the beginning, right? Hector lived in such a structured life, and he really appreciated those airplanes. And I thought he appreciated them because they kind of represented freedom for him to kind of get away from these shackles of mediocrity in his day to day. And I
yeah,
felt like that's what I don't know if that's the case at all, but I felt like that's could have been what the director was trying to do with these
mhm,
airplanes because what's that phrase, like you're free as a bird? Why? Because they fly in the sky and you don't
right,
have to follow any other one else's rules or laws. So that was just something I wanted to plug in right now, but I forgot to bring up earlier.
true. So yeah, as I mentioned, that was basically the end, right? Where
Yeah,
um, he flies back um, to Clara, and they finally, make things up and fall in love. Back to his ordinary life. He's happy with it. He's um, treating his patients with true, like intentions.
yeah, yeah.
Actually listening. Um,
Not going through the motions.
yeah, no longer going through the motions.
Yeah,
Another funny bit is when they finally, the palm reader, you know, palms his face basically and says like, "Oh, so you were laying with lying naked with a Chinese woman or something like that." I was just like, how does she know?
it was written all over his face, Albert.
Yeah,
I guess once Hector lied with that Chinese woman, like he lied with that Chinese woman.
yeah. He
So,
That was too funny.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, that was basically the end of the movie, right?
yeah, yeah. A great ending. I remember you wanted to talk about
Yeah.
the. Yes, go ahead.
So the beginning, we see the opening scene of
Yeah,
Hector flying in that airplane, the dog in the back seat, and he does a little twirl in the air, and the dog
yeah,
falls out. And my thought process after seeing it a second time, and finally analyzing it is, I feel like as he takes flight is kind of like of his own life, and the dog is his childhood basically, and it kind of fell out of him not living through it, you know, and then
right.
as he gets higher or keeps on flying, he gets older, and that's when the guy from the back appears and starts choking him because you kind of feel suffocated. you don't feel fulfilled, you don't feel satisfied, and that's what I got.
Closer to death, right?
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
got from that.
Oh, that's good. I didn't even think about that, but because you're right, every time the dog comes up, right, it's usually him as a kid with the dog and his childhood and all that. So yeah, that's ooh, I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah,
I still didn't. I tried to process it myself, but I couldn't put together like why did the dog fall out?
yeah.
I thought it was just like a sad moment, like oh no, it's turning into a nightmare.
Oh, forgot to put a seatbelt on.
uh,
But
poor
yeah,
dog.
that's at least what I got interpreted it from. But it was a really good
No,
movie in my opinion. Simon
yeah,
Pegg did a great job, and
for sure,
you know,
for sure. It's 2 hours, but it flies by. Flies
no
by.
pun intended. Got it.
Jeez. Jeez. Oh man. All right, Albert. So what is happiness?
What is happiness? Damn, I was thinking throughout, and I thought I had a good answer, but I just feel like self awareness is
Mm,
happiness. Just knowing who you are, is
yeah,
true happiness. If if you know who you are and you know that other things bother you, um, outside factors, taking everything into consideration. As long as you know who you are, I think that's happiness.
that's a beautiful answer. To piggyback off of that, I think you're right. You're when you're self-aware and you have that harmony in your life, right? Because you know what bugs you, you know what doesn't bug you. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's yeah, that's what we strive to be, and that's basically what kind of Hector's journey, right? Like he didn't know who he was because he became his routines,
Yeah,
and he didn't allow like he couldn't allow himself anything else but those routines. So yeah, that's
yeah. Even going back to what the professor said, you striving for happiness ends up being activities, you know,
yeah,
and it's sort of a byproduct, he says, and a side effect. So it can easily go away if you find short-term happiness. It's more, you know, deeper than that, really.
for sure. Yeah, yeah. Oh man,
That's pretty good.
that's a good answer, you jerk. Well, I'm not gonna try and follow that up, so don't ask me. Um, and on that note, where can we find you these days, Albeezy?
You can find me. My Instagram is nsb_albeezy. I'm pretty uh, active on that, and that's just about it. But yeah, thanks for having me again. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
no, appreciate you coming on. Thanks so much for your time and opening up and talking about this awesome movie. Yeah, it was a great film for sure.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we can do this again. I really enjoyed this. I was a little hesitant at first, just knowing myself. I'm a little shy, but you brought it out of me. Appreciate it.
No takebacks. Everyone heard him. Everyone heard him. But yeah, no, dude, I truly appreciate it. Alrighty, everyone, that's gonna wrap up this episode of An Evening With. Thanks again to Albert. Thanks again for watching in your time. You can always find me at theory_labs on Instagram and Theory Labs on YouTube. Alrighty, everyone, stay well.